GG to the winner of the free game this week. Remember, we give away a game each and every week to someone who's left a comment and I've looked at it and gone, yeah, I like that. Let's give it a prize. Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp. My name's Mark Walker and it must be Sunday because, well, it's the sales video. It's not specifically in this video, but if you're in the US regions and you haven't picked it up yet, get Borderlands the Legendary Collection. That includes the first, the second and the pre-sequel and a few other bits and bobs, and it's what I've been playing all weekend. Save yourself 10% on any games you buy. Use code SwitchUp on our website, switchup.gg. You'll get 5% off instantly and 5% back in SwitchUp's own version of coins. Okie dokie. Right, what are the best games on sale this week? Well, let's find out. Let's start right away with a hidden gem, because why wouldn't you? Now I think this week is actually going to be a difficult one for those people that like to try and avoid buying anything, because we do have a couple of little hidden gems and a couple of lowest ever prices on some really nice little games. First up, we've got The Last Hero of Nostalgia. This is down 25%, as I say, to £14.99, and it was previously out on Steam, and it's very good. It's a Souls-like, believe it or not. You wouldn't think that looking at those visuals. And it also features online co-op if you've got a friend to join you, but you don't need to do it that way. It describes itself as a satirical action adventure, but that doesn't really do it justice, honestly. Anyone who's played any Soulsborne game, you're going to pick up the controls instantly, know exactly what you're doing, and be probably quite surprised by how much of a challenge it offers. You play as the most hideous, pixelated hero to ever spawn in the land of nostalgia, and if you've been looking for a new challenging game that's probably not on most people's radar, I can highly recommend this week's hidden gem. It's quality. It's also decently long. You're looking at around maybe 15 to 20 hours for your first playthrough, but with lots of little secrets in there. It's developed by Over the Moon Games and published by everyone's favourite, Coatsink.
A big thank you to Forever Entertainment for sponsoring this video with their new release, Front Mission 2 Remake.
The game releases on October the 5th, and we previously covered the first one. We'll also pop links to that in the description.
Based on the game that first released in 1997, it promises an engaging storyline, strategic turn-based combat, the Wanzer customization, they're the huge mechs that you control, and a free camera option to allow you to pan across the battlefield. As well as this, the new features include modern in-game effects and a renewed soundtrack. The game will release with a 10% discount available up until the 12th of October, but you can get up to 20% off with a few conditions. You can get 15% off if you own one of the eligible titles, being House of the Dead Remake, Panzer Dragoon, Cooking Simulator, Thief Simulator, Green Hell and a few others. We'll put links in the description, and you can get 20% off if you own the first Front Mission.
A massive thanks to Forever Entertainment. Keep your eye out for that dedicated video because we're going to be giving away a copy of the game. Next up, and only in the US region I'm afraid, we have a massive sale on Eastward. In case you missed it, a DLC for this was just announced, so it's the perfect time to blast your way through it. It was developed by Pixpil and published once again by everyone's favourite, Chucklefish. You play as John and you're joined by Sam. You can switch between the two characters. John has a frying pan, which is awesome, and later gains things like a flamethrower. It's like an action adventure from that top-down perspective. There's a little cooking mechanic in here as well. What I loved about this was the intangible element of that relationship between the two characters and how well that was handled. It's quite a bizarro story, feeling a little bit like Stranger Things mixed with, I don't know, something like Earthbound, but I thought it was great. The world's basically being attacked by what's called the miasma. Sam starts to have these strange powers and yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but it's definitely an adventure you should experience. It took me stupidly long to finish. I think it would take most people about 25 to 30 hours. The expansion is coming out in December, so yeah, it's a good time to get on it really, and we'll make sure we have a review of that expansion when it drops. Next up, in all regions, we've got Beacon Pines, which is 40% off, taking it down to £10.79 or your regional equivalent, which is quite a bargain. It's about maybe like 10 or 15% cheaper than it's previously been before. It was developed by Hiding Spot and published by Fellow Traveller, who have a history of good games on Switch. This has been the one that I picked up this week. Well, one of a couple that I've picked up this week, and it almost feels like you're playing an interactive storybook. Something strange happens in a warehouse, and then Luca and his mates go to investigate and find out what that is. And it turns out to be, well, something they weren't expecting at all. You'll essentially be collecting these charms that you'll use at certain points in the story, and that will change the way the game plays out. I think it kind of most reminds me of, do you remember the Never Ending Story? And they're like reading the story and it's playing out in front of them. It's like Like, the storyline's nothing like that, but the way that the game works is very similar. You'll be flitting through different versions of the same world and the same story. Well worth it at this current price. It's just 1.1 gigabytes. And that sale for Beacon Pines goes on until October the 1st, so you better be quick. Figment 2 Creed Valley has finally reached a price where I'd be quite happy to say to anyone, yeah, you should add this if you're an adventure game fan. Well, action adventure actually. It's down to £13.19, that's 40% off and the cheapest it's ever been. And it's also received a couple of patches since it came out, and performance is much more smooth than it was. There's still a few drops here and there, but I think it works fine. Now what this does very well is it incorporates rhythm and music into the gameplay. So a lot of the bosses will be singing their way around the stages, and it plays out inside someone's psyche. So it's like a dream world, but it's based on their experiences and can often become more like a nightmare. It does have co-op mode, but it does that co-op where, like one of you just gets to play as a bird flying around. I always find that a bit lame. They did that back in, The Binding of Isaac originally, and then in the latest version of the Isaac, you can actually play as two proper people. I much prefer that. But yeah, sorry, I digress. If you like adventure games, then this is quality. You can actually pick up both of them in a bundle pack together, so that's also on sale at 50% off. So if you haven't played the first one, then that's probably the way to go. That sale goes on until October the 10th. For most of you, Children of Morta won't need a huge amount of introduction. It was Game of the Year. I think, did it come out in 2019? Yeah, I think it did. I think it came out in 2019. My goodness, that's been a long time. But there are 7 playable characters here. It does have local co-op as well, and it reminded me a little of like a more action-heavy Diablo that you could control directly, using the left stick to move around and then having several abilities. Since it came out, they added in entirely new game modes to it. One of them was called Family Trials and is essentially Hades mode, and these additions were completely free of charge, which was really impressive. So for what, £5.93, you're owning or purchasing the best version of one of the best games on Switch that has a lot more content than when it first came out. It's 70% off until October the 15th. Got to get one of my favourite little strategy games in there, and it's Project High Rise, the Architect's Edition, which it has to be said is much more fun than working in an office. Man, I've worked in some boring offices. I used to work in North Sydney in Australia, and look, the people were amazing. But just staring at spreadsheets every day, I remember just thinking, my mind was going to melt out of my ear. Do you know what? I mean, I can say this now, I'm not going to get fired, am I? I actually had 3 screens because I had to do like Excel all day and every day. So what I did, this was like back when YouTube was just started out, is I got, the series Sharp. You could watch the whole of the series Sharp I discovered on YouTube. So I had that on one screen with with one headphone in one ear. And I managed to bust out every season of Sharp before I finished that little job. I have to say I did still do a good job, but I mean, it was so boring, I just watched Sharp. So yeah, there you go, Genko, if you're still around, nice to see you. You should watch Sharp, it's awesome. Anyway, I'm talking about Project High Rise, the Architect's Edition. It's 80% off, down to £5.99. You can buy it physical as well if that's your inclination. And it is actually really complex. It's nice putting all the different businesses up into the building, and it just gets higher and higher, and you're essentially just juggling all of these resources and systems. Good game, enjoyed it a lot, and definitely a Barshan at 80% off until October the 22nd. Now we have a couple of kids picks. They're also kids picks that I absolutely love. You've got Lego Worlds, which is the current go-to co-op game in my house. £3.74, that's 85% off. That's a stupid price, that's just absolutely ludicrous. You can play 1 or 2 player split screen, granted it does lag a little bit, but if you've not played this one, you essentially move from world to world. They have different themes. There'll be like Jurassic, there'll be one that's ocean based. And you're doing little quests for people. They give you bricks, and then you use those bricks to unlock different worlds. It has a really nice flow to it. Excellent game. For £3.74, you are going to make your kids very happy. And even if it's not your kids and it's just you having a laugh on the pirate ship, yeah, really cool. In a weird way, it has elements of things like No Man's Sky in it, because you like scan new discoveries and then you unlock them. So there you go, No Man's Sky Lego Edition. You've got Lego Star Wars, the Deluxe Edition in the UK, down 67%, and the Standard Edition is $19.79, down 67% in the US regions. I bet there's a load of people that haven't played this one. Now, there are many Lego games out, but this is the first to go almost fully open world. I remember reading about the grind that they put the team through. Is it TT Games that make these? And like, yeah, they're one of those studios that just really grinds the team down, but they produce probably one of the best games. Like, it's such a good game regardless of whether you like Lego or not. The amount of systems those devs were able to create is so impressive. So yeah, I promote this one for the sake of those developers that worked flipping hard to create something that's amazing, and the whole game can be played in 2-player co-op as well. Just make sure you get on the bantha first, because if your daughter gets it, you're just going to get left behind, trust me. That sale goes on until October the 10th. If you're after an old school RPG that is, I would say, good but not great, then Earthy Lock is a nice choice because of this stupidly low price. It's just £3.37, that's 85% off. Now, while I don't think you'd be disappointed picking it up at full price, well actually maybe you would a little, buying it at £3, yeah, you shall not be sniffing at that for sure. It features turn-based combat. I really liked the art style. In fact, there's a little story behind this one, and I do like a story. They originally released the game and it got basically quite negative feedback, and they then took it away, worked on it for, I think it was either 6 months or a year, a long time, and then they re-released it just in a much better condition, and I got a lot of time for that. Now, while it's not perfect, you can see the influences from things like Final Fantasy VII, and if you know that it's just, you know, a good RPG, I think you'll have a really good time. There are 6 different playable characters, and the sale for that one goes on until October the 3rd. Then one more hidden gem, because might as well start and end with one before we go to the other sections. We've got Ziggurat 2. Now, Ziggurat 1 is also on Switch, but the sequel is 30% off, and I guarantee it had no coverage. Now, I do love me some first-person shooter roguelites, and this is down 30%. It's the cheapest it's been since it launched, and finally, in my opinion, at a price that is reasonable. You know, this is what it should be priced. This one will really appeal to fans of games like Risk of Rain, because you can actually go on these runs, use different spells, and the constant gaining new skills and then upgrading your equipment is very compelling. Now, the dungeons in the game are randomly generated, but they actually look quite decent with some good enemies in them. You can also recruit allies to join you, and there are tons of different weapons to unlock. Yeah, good game. From what I remember, it runs okay. I don't remember it chugging along, so yeah, not too shabby at all. That one's on sale until October the 11th. That's 30% off. A new little segment, it is our physical pickup section, and this week's pickup is Bayonetta 3. It's 60% off at Game here in the UK, and it's 50% off at Woot in the US. We have a full review of Bayonetta 3, so if you'd like to check that out. We thought it was a really decent follow-up to the previous 2 games, and while it wasn't a permanent 60 FPS, it ran fine. A really good action game, but yeah, you will want to have played the others before you pick this one up. Our Savaloys this week then. Those games that are cheaper than about £3, £2.60, £2.70, the price of a Savaloy, or a Walmart hot dog, or a Vetkoek, or a Greggs sausage roll, or anything else. In fact, they're not cheaper than a Greggs sausage roll, so that can't be in there. It's disappointing. First up, we've got Ziggurat, which you might recognise from Ziggurat 2 that we just talked about, but the first one's also on sale at 80% off. That might be a nice start for the series, and that makes it stupidly cheap. It's like a couple of quid. Game Deck is 90% off. I love this one. Old school isometric adventure, solving crimes inside people's virtual reality games. Oh, this was a nice little pickup actually, even though I'd be honest, I really don't like the visual style. It's called Samaya, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's from a small indie team, and it centres around the one-day journey in a picturesque Japanese village, from the mundane small things to larger quests. And I've got to be honest, I only bought this because I saw it on Deku Deals and was like, yeah, that looks alright for a couple of quid, let's give it a bash. And yeah, I'm quite enjoying it so far. And what I didn't expect is that it kind of deals with grief essentially as its subject matter, and it manages to do that in a way that is quite impactful. So yeah, kind of go into this one if you're thinking of picking up something that's a little deeper. Just go in knowing that it might might leave you in tears. Last but not least, we have Boreal Tenebrae, which is 72% off. I have mentioned it before. There is a deluxe edition, but I haven't played what that comes with. I don't even know. But this is a really unusual adventure game. It reminds me a little bit of, like, I don't know, a hybrid of Donnie Darko and Disco Elysium. It's an old retro style adventure game, but there are horror elements in here as well. Just one of those that will leave you kind of a bit uneasy. So yeah, those are the Savaloys this week. Check them out if you want to. Let me know what games you've picked up and what you're playing, and make sure you don't pay full price on any of these. Even though they're discounted, you can save another 10% using code SwitchUp over at switchup.gg if you're in certain regions. We still can't get Canada. I don't know what it is. Don't know what that's all about. Alright, thanks to you, to our Patreons and members, and for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch Up. Cheers guys. See ya!